Hello and welcome back to Music Corner here on Brian's Things That Are Cool. I don't get a chance to dip into the macabre too much on this show, but in this episode we're taking a look at the tragic tales from country music's golden age. Johnny Cash once sang, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." Now the Man in Black never actually killed anyone, but it's not surprising that a genre made up of songs about cheating, heartbreak, sorrow and woe, and even murder would itself be performed by musicians who were no stranger to the darker side of life. In some cases, it humanizes these legends, and it allows their words and music to hit much deeper, while in other cases, their actions destroy my pleasure in listening to them, and they can only be seen as monsters. Let's begin our walk through the shadows of Music Row with the murder of String Bean. In any genre of music, it's not uncommon to get a little silly sometimes. And country music has certainly had its fair share of novelty acts. One of these was David Aikman, known to fans as String Bean. As a member of the Grand Ole Opry, and later as a cast member on Hee Haw, String Bean kept audiences entertained with his old-timey banjo playing and comical appearance. Nicknamed String Bean at an early concert appearance because of his tall, skinny frame, he began appearing in long dress shirts and short jeans buckled at the knees to call more attention to his lanky physique. String Bean started in local country radio shows in Kentucky during the 1930s. Then he joined Bill Monroe's group between 1943 and 1945, and eventually went solo in the early 60s, cutting sides for Starday Records, including Suicide Blues.
I'm going to kill myself, oh Lordy me. Going to kill myself, you wait and see.
A dark yet comedic song that was on one of Omni Records' Hillbillies in Hell compilations, all of which I highly recommend. But it wasn't suicide that brought about String Bean's inclusion in this episode, but the events of November 10th, 1973. Coming of age during the Great Depression, String Bean was accustomed to simple living. He lived with his wife Estelle in a small cabin in Tennessee, with their only extravagances being a color TV and a Cadillac. Because of String Bean's upbringing during the Great Depression, he also deeply distrusted banks, and opted to hide all the money he earned around his house. In the walls, behind loose bricks in the chimney, etc. String Bean's unorthodox way of storing his income soon became the talk of the town, and unfortunately caught the attention of cousins John A. Brown and Marvin Douglas Brown, who made plans to rob the home. On that November night, they broke into String Bean's cabin and turned on his radio so they would know when String Bean, who was appearing on the Opry that night, would be home. String Bean and his wife returned home while the Browns were still ransacking his house. After attempting to stop the situation, String Bean was shot dead. Upon seeing this, Estelle screamed, which caused the killer to turn the gun on her. The killers fled in String Bean's own car, and the bodies were discovered the next morning by their neighbor and fellow Hee Haw cast member, Grandpa Jones. Ultimately, a chainsaw and a couple of guns, which were recognized by Grandpa Jones as a gift he had given String Bean, were taken. Not 1 cent of String Bean's cash stash was found until 1996, when the new owners of his house found $27,000 in the chimney. Unfortunately, it had been so chewed up by rats it was unusable. Marvin Brown died in prison in 2003, while John Brown was paroled in 2014 after serving 41 years. The justice system can really piss you off, can't it? Sometimes a few seconds, a silly little joke between two friends, can lead to a lifetime of regret. This is the story of a friendship between two music legends that ended in tragedy. In 1953, a Lubbock, Texas teenager named Buddy Holly was performing locally with his friend Bob Montgomery as Buddy and Bob. Their talent quickly landed them a weekly spot on KDAV's Sunday Party Show. A couple years later, the station's owner, Pappy Dave Stone, booked Elvis Presley for a gig in Lubbock, and hearing this mix of country and rhythm and blues was a defining moment for Buddy. After hearing Elvis and opening for him a couple times, Buddy shifted his sound from country and bluegrass to rock and roll, eventually starting a new group, the Crickets, and his rise to stardom. In 1958, while Buddy Holly and the Crickets were seeing massive success on the charts and in venues all over the world, a Lubbock, Texas radio station named KLLL, who like KDAV played country and rockabilly, hired a young DJ from Littlefield, Texas named Waylon Jennings. Waylon had the afternoon show and even sang on air from time to time. Whenever Buddy had a break in touring, he'd visit KLLL to see old friends and talk music. Buddy had known Waylon since the Buddy and Bob days, as Waylon would drive down to see them. But their strong friendship really developed through Buddy's visits to KLLL. On one of these visits to the station during a break in touring for Christmas, Buddy stopped by, and pretty soon out came the guitar, and Buddy, Waylon, and station manager Slim Corbin thought it'd be fun to write a song.
You're the one sent from heaven above. You're the one that's meant for me.
You're the One was written in 10 minutes, and someone decided to tape it that day, with Buddy on guitar and vocals, and Waylon and Slim providing hand claps. Buddy quickly recognized his friend Waylon's talent, and when he booked himself a recording session with famed saxophonist King Curtis to cut Reminiscing and Come Back Baby, he invited Waylon to record 2 songs at the end of his session. Joel Blonde and When Sin Stops.
When sin stops, love begins.
With Buddy not only producing the record, but also playing rhythm guitar on the songs, as well as paying Waylon's recording expenses. This would be Waylon Jennings' first record. Around this time, Buddy was having trouble with his manager, and with all of his royalties frozen until the dispute was settled, the recently married Buddy was forced to go back out on the road. The problem was, the other Crickets decided to stay with their manager, and the group split, forcing Buddy to find a new group for the tour. Tommy Allsup joined as the lead guitarist, and to play bass, Buddy asked Waylon to join the group. Waylon had to learn the bass quickly, saying he took to just memorizing where he put his fingers for each song. The Winter Dance Party Tour proved to be the tour from hell, hopscotching the Midwest in a bus with a broken heater with no downtime for any of the musicians. By the Clear Lake, Iowa date on February 2nd, 1959, Buddy had had enough. He booked a small Beechcraft Bonanza plane from Dwyer Flying Service to carry him and his band to the next venue, ahead of the other musicians, allowing them to get laundry done and some much-needed rest. Word got out, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, fighting the flu at the time, couldn't stand the thought of another night traveling on the bus, and asked Waylon if he could take a seat. When Buddy found out, he jokingly said to Waylon, "I guess you're not flying with us tonight. Well, I hope your bus freezes up." Waylon, also in a joking manner, responded, "Well, I hope your plane crashes." Later that night, the plane carrying Buddy, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens, who won his spot on the plane in a coin toss with Tommy Allsup, crashed in an Iowa cornfield, killing all 3 stars and 21-year-old pilot Roger Peterson. Waylon could only think of that final conversation, and it haunted him for decades, even saying the guilt led to much of his substance abuse problems throughout his career. In 1979, the remaining Crickets bought Buddy's motorcycle from a fan and gave it to Waylon for his 42nd birthday. A small part of his friend who believed in him helped him get started in the industry and was taken from the world a million times too soon. Every now and then, a celebrity death will transcend just being the final moments of a beloved star, and itself become legend. The devil coming to collect its due from a 27-year-old Robert Johnson, James Dean's car crash in 1955, and of course, Hank Williams' last ride. Hiram Williams was born on September 17, 1923 in Mount Olive, Alabama. Hiram decided to go by Hank early in his teens. He grew up singing in the church and got his first guitar at around 8 years old and began taking lessons from a local blues man named Rufus T-Tot Payne. It was T-Tot who taught Hank the song "My Bucket's Got a Hole in It," which he'd go on to record in 1949. After winning a talent show in 1937 singing one of his own compositions, Hank began busking around Montgomery, Alabama, attracting WSFA Radio, who invited him to sing on the air. He quit school shortly after and began performing with his new group, the Drifting Cowboys. Sadly, with the newfound success came a dependence on alcohol, brought on by Hank's struggle with spina bifida occulta. So bad was Hank's alcoholism, it prompted Roy Acuff to tell him, "You've got $1 million voice, son, but a 10-cent brain." Around this time, he began getting noticed as a songwriter, eventually landing his first recording contract with Sterling Records. And then with MGM Records, who released Move It On Over in 1947, which became a massive hit.
So move it on over, move it on over, move it on over.
The success kept coming, more hits, more tours, and a spot on the Louisiana Hayride. Then his debut night on the Grand Ole Opry, where he got 6 encores. A fall during a 1951 squirrel hunting trip aggravated his condition, and he was forced to get a back fusion surgery that December, seeing an increase in his alcohol and painkiller consumption. Despite the success in his professional life, his personal life was crumbling. His toxic marriage to his wife Audrey, the muse behind so many of his heartbreak songs, left him in 1952, and his drinking and drug use were getting worse, as was his judgment. Hank met a man named Horace Marshall, who had just been released from prison for forgery. After his release, Horace bought the title of Doctor of Science for $25 from the Chicago School of Applied Science and was illegally practicing under the name Dr. C.W. Lemon. Dr. Lemon prescribed Hank with morphine, amphetamines, Seconal, and chloral hydrate, causing immense damage to Hank's heart. On December 31st, 1952, Hank was scheduled to perform a New Year's Eve show in Charleston, West Virginia, but a snowstorm made it impossible for Hank to fly to the appearance, so he hired a college student named Charles Carr to drive him from Montgomery, Alabama to the show in Charleston. Around Knoxville, Hank got sick with a combination of alcohol and chloral hydrate, and Charles Carr called a doctor who shot Hank with B12 and a quarter grain of morphine. After Hank was carried back to the car, Patrick called to check in, and he was told that the New Year's Eve show was canceled, and to instead drive Hank to Canton, Ohio for the New Year's Day show. Patrick, with Hank laying down in the back seat, continued their drive. By this point, Patrick had been driving for 20 hours straight and was exhausted, so he called a local taxi service to hire a driver around Bristol, Virginia. Patrick, the new driver, and Hank continued their journey, stopping at a gas station in Oak Hill, West Virginia, where they discovered that Hank had been dead for hours. Hank died of acute right ventricular dilation. He was just 29 years old. At the Canton, Ohio show that night, the MC broke the news to the audience. Fellow performer Hawkshaw Hawkins, who would perish 10 years later in the plane crash that also took Patsy Cline and Cowboy Copas, began singing I Saw the Light in tribute to Hank, as all of the performers on the show joined in. The bard of the backwoods, the hillbilly Shakespeare, Hank Williams was gone, but he will never be forgotten. Hank Williams Jr. and his children Sam Williams, Holly Williams, and Shelton Williams, known as Hank Williams III, have secured the Williams family legacy for generations to come. And having met Hank Williams III and his son Coleman, who performs under the name For myself, I have to say they're doing an incredible job of it. As consumers of media, we tend to look up to performers that create something that affects us on a deeper level. But can finding out about the darkness within them cause us to turn away, despite how much they meant to you? That 70s show was fun to watch, and we all liked the characters. Now it's a little painful.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Prison.
Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Kevin Spacey. It's hard to separate the art from the person. The sexual misconduct of these celebrities rightfully destroyed their careers, and thankfully they'll never fully recover. But one story in country music is so heinous, so evil, that to this day, when his biggest hit gets covered, the only thing I can think of is why would you want to sing the song of a monster? This is the story of Spade Cooley. Donald Cooley and his family moved from Oregon to California during the Dust Bowl. Shortly after the move, he got his nickname Spade after winning 3 straight hands in a game of poker. The good luck kept coming for Spade when he took over the bandleader role in Jimmy Wakely's orchestra in the early 1940s, and even promoted himself as the King of Western Swing, despite Bob Wills already claiming that title. 1944 saw Spade get a #1 hit with a song he wrote and recorded for OK Records called Shame on You.
Shame, shame on you. Shame, shame on you.
Movies and television followed before his retirement in 1960. Pretty standard career for a country music star, but as you may have suspected, it's here. Things take an ugly turn. With retirement came a drinking problem, which frequently mixed with his anti-psych meds. This unfortunate cocktail led to horrendous abuse towards his wife Ella Mae Evans, even landing her in the hospital for a mental breakdown. Accusations of infidelity and death threats to her and their children became a common occurrence in the Cooley household. In March of 1961, Ella Mae admitted to a friend that she was having an affair with Roy Rogers. In some way, Spade found out about the affair, and despite having numerous affairs himself, was furious. On April 3rd of the same year, Spade stomped and beat Ella Mae to death, going so far as to put out a lit cigarette on her to make sure she was dead. All of this in front of their 14-year-old daughter, no less. Spade told investigators his wife had slipped in the shower. With the help of his daughter's testimony, Spade was indicted on first-degree murder and given a life sentence, being eligible for parole after 7 years. After serving 8 years, then California Governor Ronald Reagan made the mind-boggling decision to give Spade parole. Thankfully, Spade dropped dead of a heart attack on November 23, 1969 at the age of 58, before his parole was enacted. Sometimes you just gotta love the Grim Reaper style. Spade left behind a song that would become something of a country standard, a song covered by the likes of Eddie Arnold, Faron Young, Jerry Lee Lewis, and most recently by roots music revivalists Fiasco and the Majestics. A song with a title that, while understated, is the perfect epitaph for this monster. Spade Cooley, shame on you. Songwriter Harlan Howard once famously described country music as 3 chords and the truth. Today's episode featured true stories about pain, sorrow, and woe, about artists who, for better or for worse, lived what they sang. There are many other stories like this throughout the history of not only country music, but blues, rockabilly, jazz, and more. Drug addiction, transportation accidents, and even possible Faustian deals at the crossroads. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my trip down the dark side of Music Row. If you'd like to be kept up to date as to when I release a new video, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And if you really want to be notified, hit that bell as well. I'm Brian, and I'll see you next time on Music Corner.